advised. The opinions and views of the hosts and guests do not reflect those of the station.
Imagine, create, innovate, and protect your intellectual property. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. You're with me, Attorney Sarah Jane Sugitan, and you're on the show, Intellectual Property. Tonight, we're going to talk about a very special form of trademarks called certification marks. Certification marks are those that are awarded to products, services, or entities that have complied with certain standards or qualifications. Examples are the Halal certification mark for food, the recyclable science for packaging, and for tonight we're going to have the IP seal or intellectual property seal awarded by the IP Coalition and the super brand status by Superbrands. So joining us tonight on the program is Mr. John Lasaca of the IP Coalition and Mr. Harry Tambatco of Superbrands. Good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening, Attorney.
Welcome to the show. First of all, let's go directly to Mr. John Lasaca.
Kala ko tutug tayo, Attorney. May violin dito, pwede na ako mag-drums. Ikaw na lang ang singer, di ba? Diretso na tayo, tugtugan na tayo.
Yeah, for everyone's information, they're both musicians and also businessmen. I mean, yes, and both intellectual property advocates in this country, definitely. So, Mr. John Lasaca, IP Coalition, what is it about and what does it do?
The IP Coalition is a non-profit organization. It was formalized about 5-6 years ago, and it is a group of industry stakeholders.
You formed this group? Did you form this group? Are you one of the founders?
Ika nga ang tanong dyan sino tumulak sa akin?
Okay.
I mean, we were together, common interests and common needs to protect our intellectual property rights. So we were all stakeholders. So we have musicians, we have garments,
industry,
we have inventors, we have all the rest of the IP stakeholders. We come across as the primary policy caucus for all these stakeholders.
All right. So, what sort of projects does the IP Coalition? Well, it is a non-government organization. It's a private entity,
it's an
and
NGO.
It supplements the Intellectual Property Office of the Philippines. It works with the office as
well. Oh yes, we definitely do work with the Intellectual Property Office, with the Optical Media Board, all the other agencies also, but especially the IPO. Because firstly, the mandate is for policy making. It's a quasi-judicial agency of government. And as such, we also see the need to partner with government regarding the legislation, regarding the amendments to the law, regarding implementation of the implementing rules and regulations, for example, of the various laws that affect IP.
Intellectual property. Of course, your group is very much aware that there is a lack among our people of awareness about how to protect intellectual property and how to promote respect for it.
Yes, you know, many people feel that by stretching the peso, you patronize the unlicensed, unauthorized, and illegal products. Ika nga. They think that it's because it's cheap, therefore it's in. And everybody does it anyway, so why not do it? You know, that sort of thing, that sort of mindset, and
that's what you want to change.
Oh yes, definitely. Because number one, it's a crime.
Yes, that's true.
Many people think that it's a victimless crime, though, and that's what spells the difference. It's not like murder. It's more like littering or jaywalking. Nobody gets hurt, like they say, right?
That's
But-
the perception that
That's
it's
a
a victimless crime.
Yes, it's a victimless crime. What they don't understand or what they don't know is that a lot of people, their livelihood depends a lot on IP.
That's right.
If whether you're a local company or a multinational company, if you lose money because your products are not used or yung hindi pinaalam ng tama, di ba? Ninakaw, in short, di ba? If you lose money, what do? You close shop. But good if you're only one guy. No, you have hundreds of employees underneath you. And if you close shop, where will these people go?
You see, that's the domino effect of piracy. Once
Exactly.
people start patronizing pirated products,
Uh-huh.
the proper income does not go to the creative people. Like yourselves, you're both musicians, and if you're really selling DVDs or your albums and people are just downloading it from the internet for free or exchanging it for free, it
Yeah.
hits your income, right?
That's right. That's why we're businessmen now.
Yes.
I'd
Yes,
like to
Mr.
add on
Tambaco.
to what John said about victimless crime. I disagree. I think the victim here is government, because one, taxes are not collected.
Yeah.
Two, because there is a regulation. For the purpose of regulation is really to protect businessmen, entrepreneurs. So there are victims. The real victims is first government, and second, the entrepreneurs. And the third, which people don't really realize when you buy piracy, they who participate in the purchase or in the proliferation of piracy, ang natatalo din dyan yung taon bayan, because government is there for the people, not the other way around. So if government loses, inevitably it is the people that lose out.
Correct.
Because the taxes and the income collected by government ideally is for the people. Because the government is not there to generate a profit for the purpose of generating a profit, not like in the public sector, in the private sector. The public sector governance, regulation is introduced, controls, violations are identified for the purpose, for the people inevitably. So people who participate and buy, pag bumili ka ng pirated at inuwi mo yan at ginamit mo, ang sinasaktan mo, sarili mo. It just so happens that the IP office is the regulator to identify exactly what type of violation, I think, and or crime that is being committed, so to speak.
That's right. And just to give an idea, losses, taxes, in revenues,
Magkano na?
billions yan.
Billion na.
Imagine the billions that can be earned from that or made from that. You pour it into hospitals, into schools, books, etc., etc. Medical medicines, for example. Nawawala yun.
Let's not forget the pockets of the governors, the mayors.
Yeah, the government loses out. Even the government
Yun nga,
officials.
government.
The government loses out.
Pun intended.
Yeah.
Yes.
Pun
Pun
intended.
intended.
Well, you've heard of the efforts of the Intellectual Property Office to secure police or enforcement powers in order to curb piracy or in order to further enforcement efforts. What do you think of that? Do you think will that be effective in this fight against piracy?
Well, I guess considering the profile of our new Director General, I know him personally, he's a good friend of mine. I see that he will really need police powers. On the other hand, because the mandate of the office does not include the enforcement part, and he's more of an enforcement guy, siyempre it's natural that he will try to bat for and aim for enforcement powers, police powers. I would think it would be good also. It would be good. It will complement the other enforcement agencies. Many people kasi will say, oh, we have enough enforcement people
we have
here.
too many
no?
police.
You have the OMB, you have the NBI, you have the PNP, and now you'll have the IPO. But, PNP is more for public safety,
Peace and order.
peace and order, right? And OMB is mainly for
Optical
the
disc.
regulation, replication, and of optical media. So there is not really one enforcement agency that is tasked or focusing on
Intellectual property. Yes, and it spans a wide deal, not just optical discs. There's also fake bags, fake books, and
Oh,
now
yes.
fake medicines. So
That's
it would be
right.
good to have a police force that specializes in identifying when the cargo comes in and whether or not the shipment is indeed fake or authentic.
Right.
Because there have been reports that the fake ones are now becoming as good as the authentic ones, such that brand owners are having a hard time identifying whether the fake is indeed fake.
Yes, that's true. That's true. As a matter of fact, as talking about brands, no, the fakers have become so good that when the goods are seized, if the owner of the brand is not based here, based in Singapore, for example, or in Europe, it takes some time for the communications. You have to certify that this is fake and this is not fake. So it takes some time. And the time lapse that happens for the enforcers to really do what they have to do, it's more expensive for the brand owners because you have to store it.
Yes, the evidence.
Storage costs, you have bonded warehouses for this. And, litigation is very expensive. So it works against the brand owner.
The window for the waiting period
It's
becomes
very
a window of
time-sensitive.
vulnerability.
Yes, yes.
Because that's when the evidence gets spirited away or it disappears.
That's right.
The chain of custody itself is vulnerable to a lot of lapses, and it costs money for the brand owners when it comes to enforcement. Now, Mr. Tambuatco, do you have that kind of concern with the brands that you manage under Super Brands?
Well, our prophecy is like this. Super Brands, we're in 88 countries worldwide. We're in Southeast Asia. We're in 9 out of the 11. We've been here on our 17th year. We are known as the global brand arbiters. You have to remember that every year there are 25,000, almost 30,000 new brand names that are introduced into the marketplace here and abroad. How is a consumer, how will he or she be able to identify a brand title with all the numerical, if we were to put it in numerical volumes, no? 30,000 nuance plus those existing. So brand preference goes out the window and it's always new brands that come in. So the game now is going to become ano mas mura, ano mas affordable, or kung sino una based on point of sale materials. In Super Brands, we have branded close to 200 in the Philippines. We now make it a requirement that intellectual property registration is a must. Even in our programs, we have brands that have already made it. I have one specific example, but I'm not going to alienate the brand. What's happened is they've been in the market, they didn't realize. This is really sad. Entrepreneurs in this country have no awareness of the significance of intellectual property.
That's right.
And the word infringement. So much so the headlines are full of what you call plagiarism, copyright, and dami. And IP, intellectual property, is becoming a byword, but there is no understanding of how there is a violation in IP or the reverse protection on IP. Ang daming di may alam. Biro, one of our Super Brands had to pull out his product off the shelves. And he was very successful in the over-the-counter OTC pharmaceutical trade. And he had to pull out our program. That opened my eyes and I realized, gee, I better abide by the IP. So what I did was I went close to them and I asked that I work along with them. And now we're very strict. You want to enter the program and be a Super Brands? Okay, where is your registration?
Exactly.
Immediately. Going there, I'm sorry. If you wish, we will help you. Assuming we accept you and certify you as a brand.
That's right.
Requirement, ginawa ko requirement.
Perhaps it's also a weakness of the system that trademark registration is not mandatory. You see, businessmen don't have an awareness that they have to comply with this step. They're only aware of SEC registration, then the DTI, business name
Attorney,
registration.
yan ang maganda eh. Balik ko naman ang question sa'yo kasi kami yung resource dito eh. Alam mo, host ako, malaki talaga ang bibig ko eh. Ang lakas ng personality ko. Siyempre, I'm always on TV here on GNN. The question begs, why is it the regulators, in this case, government, the Department of Trade and Industry, and now the regulators, the specialization of intellectual property, why don't you make it mandatory for the DTI for sole proprietorship,